Right, you're going to tell us about a special fish you had recently, didn't you, mate? I did say it in the last film that that you had something a bit special, arguably one of the finest linears in the country. June, it was June, wasn't it?
June the 5th.
It was like the longest spring that we ever had.
It was.
I don't need to ask how you have your tea.
Very strong.
So how long have you been on Dinton now?
I started in 2019. Obviously, we've had lockdown.
You say you started in 2019, so what drew you to come in here then? Because I told you enough times to stay away, didn't I?
Well, I did originally.
Circus.
I originally had a Dinton ticket back in 2015. I had it for about 2 weeks, and I got a refund. Yeah. And the reason being, I think
Was it Wingham?
I was on Wingham. I think I got a Wingham ticket, and I thought, I don't know anyone on Dinton, you know. And these 2 tickets came up, and I took this one. I paid the deposit on this one, and then
this one, not black.
No, it was on this.
Just this.
It was on this. I got offered black a long time ago.
Yeah,
but
I
never
did.
Took it when it first came out.
We were hearing stuff then, weren't we? That it was like from the outside, they made it sounding like it was like we're never going to catch a fish or anything.
Exactly.
And that's probably more prolific than what
it is. It's
what white is, isn't it? Now, and now it's a ticket that you just can't get hold of.
No, the waiting lists are closed on both.
Yeah.
So I originally got offered a ticket way back in about 2015, and
wow.
Paid the deposit, and then this other ticket came up, and I didn't know anyone on here at the time. And, you know, years ago we used to have all the Yately boys that we knew.
Yep.
They were fishing here, but then of course they moved on, and I didn't really know anyone. So I just got the deposit back, and then fished at Wingham, fished other places, as you know, Road Lake, etc. And then obviously you started on here again.
Well, I started here after Yately, didn't I? I went to Yately, and where were you? You must have been. I think you were either Fox or Wingham or something. We weren't on the same lake at that time, were we?
No, that's right. I was on.
I went and did a bit.
I was on Wingham, and also had a Fox ticket as well.
Yeah.
But Wingham had restricted times, lots of rules. It wasn't. It was good. Had some good fish out, but
it cost a bloody fortune.
Cost a fortune. And I thought there's better options out there.
Yeah.
And of course, you talked about this place, and I think at the time you had your name on the list, and you said, get your name on the list.
Yeah.
Because it's open. And this has got a fantastic stamp of fishing.
Yeah.
You've got Land of the Linears, as it's been called. It's absolutely full of really dark, chestnut-coloured lins. Amazing.
You'll never get a better stock. We know that. I've said it quite a bit in the past on the films that I've done, that you'll never have a bigger challenge in your angling life than here, and the rewards are there, but the stock is arguably, that's the problem. You go from here and it's like, well,
where'd you go?
Christchurch, that sort of thing. You're going to get on there? No, it's just kind of stamp-wise, as you say, it's just
exactly
mental.
Exactly.
So how did you get on when you started?
I came from Foxpool, and I was using a bait there from one of the guys who sort of runs it, and been quite successful on that bait on other lakes, on one of the private syndicates we were on.
Yeah.
Had some good fish. It was a nut-based sort of bait. Unfortunately, when I came on here, I struggled quite a bit. And
I am at the moment.
Yeah, very much so. Very much so. People don't give any secrets away, obviously, on this lake. And, they're hard-earned. Every fish is hard-earned on here. And you have to work for it. And, even my dear old cousin told me very, very little, which is fair play. I would have done exactly the same. So I think it was on my...
It's a Dinton way, I'm afraid.
Yeah, exactly. And then I think on my first session, I caught one out of here. It was a 19-pounder, a lin, and I thought, oh wow, maybe
there is something.
Maybe you can catch out of here.
You have a painful road to get the first bite, don't you? Some people don't. Some people come on here and they've just gone like, oh no, it's not. But their method has been an instant success, but
yeah. So this was it was in the margins, down at the bottom end of the lake. The wind was banging down there, and it was just a small fish. But I was over the moon. I was with one of our mates of old from way back in the Horton days, Gary. Yeah. And he did the pics for me. So yeah, I was over the moon. It was a double, but it was Dinton fish.
Yeah.
And then struggled after that, you know, for a good few sessions, and then I think I had another small fish out of the antisocial swims. Again, you know, that middle of the night, and that was again a 19-pound common. And I thought, well, 2 19-pounders, and then that was pretty much it. You know, after that, I had the usual Dinton experience of fish bubbling all over me, getting all twitches, liners. I thought they were liners. They're probably being done. And it just got very, very tricky. So that was the very first year. And then I thought, well, I've got to do something a little bit different. So I started again on that bait, and it turned out, unfortunately, the bait recipe had been changed of the bait we were using, I was using, and it wasn't as good as it had been. But they're very, very fussy on bait in here, very fussy on spots. So you've got to be bang on a spot. Now, I don't mind if it takes 30 casts to get absolutely on that spot, because then I'm confident that you're going to get a take. Yeah. Whereas, you know, you can see them fizzing 2 foot away from you, it means nothing. Yeah. You know, that you may not get a take. You've got to be bang on where they want to be. Anyway, that second year, I started on that bait, and I thought, I've got to change something up. So I changed to a sort of fish meal bait, which, you know, this type of bait does very, very well on here. And I was acting on my own with this other bait I'd been using. There's not enough of it going in, so I went on to something.
Very hard.
Exactly. You know, you're fighting against a lot of people putting good quality bait in. So I fished with a bait similar to what was going in. So other people effectively are pre-baiting for you, which is great. And the fish are used to finding it. And you've got that confidence of using.
It makes a massive difference.
Absolutely. So again, you know, this was actually on the day of closure. I had a take. I was down in right down the bottom end, southwesterly, banging in there, and I'd seen fish rolling, coming down the lake, and I jumped in the swim. And then next morning, 5:30 in the morning, pulled up tight, and couldn't find, there was nothing on the end. And I wound down, and it come towards me, and then I was connected. And I had to battle fish through weed, but I got it in, and it was an old original called the Hamster.
Oh yeah, I remember that.
37 £12. And then
warrior.
Yeah, real old character fish, let's say. You know, it's not one of the pretty lins out of here, but it's a real old character fish. And then the lake closed, so that was the last knock-in. So a handful of us still on, a couple of fish
have been out. Here, Jace.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Just before the lake
before
shut.
its closure, Jason strikes. Yeah.
Exactly. So.
Okay, so things started coming together.
So that came together.
It really clicked this year, though, didn't it? What happened? Tell us about this year, because you really sort of got in amongst them, didn't you, this year?
I did, yeah. I wanted, you know, all intents and purposes, I wanted to come on here in the spring, early spring, late winter, get some zig fishing done. Yeah. I think I only managed maybe one session. Yeah.
Did you enjoy it though? Because when everybody else doing, I've mentioned this before. I did the early zigging. Well, people doing it before me, but I really enjoyed it. I thought this is different, and a lot of people sort of said, "Oh no, it's dull." But I soon sort of didn't enjoy it as much like this year and a bit last year, because there were so many others doing it, and you kind of think. So I went against it, and didn't I? And I went and started doing a bit of bait. But you only had a couple of sessions at it, did you?
Well, no, I had one session. One session zig fishing. Yeah. And then I thought, no, I'm going to go on to bait. Yeah.
It's the only thing you could get a bite on, though, wasn't it, with zigs? And that was so frustrating, wasn't it?
It was, and it was. Again, I was pretty late starting on here compared to very many. This year, I can't remember. It was back in April. Back in April this year. Came back, it was my second session. And
biscuits there if you want them.
Thanks, I'm all right.
Before my daughter eats them all.
The weather was quite moody, and when the weather's a bit like that, I like, you know, certain area of the lake, middle of the lake, and I'd arrived and I saw a couple of fish roll in a popular swim, must be said.
Yeah.
So I dropped in there, and I think over a couple of nights I had 3 fish, which is
unheard of, really, isn't it?
Quite unusual.
Yeah.
Here. They're all 20s, but yeah, I was
Don't matter, does
over
it?
the moon. No, absolutely. So, yeah, I think the first take I had was in the afternoon of arrival, and that was a 27 linear, lovely fish.
And what was it? Was this like, were you far out? Or what was going on? What was leading up to? What were you doing that was a bit, getting the bites? You put it down to bait, or did you put it down to different methods?
Bit of both, really. So obviously I clocked where the fish had rolled.
Yeah.
And I'd led it about. There were some obvious spots. I don't like really fishing very obvious spots.
Yeah.
So I fished an area close by. Wasn't, a long way out, to be fair. 9, 8 wraps out. Yeah. And I found some sparse weed. And I thought, I can fish, right up against that. Yeah. And the presentation would be good. I was just using like a spinner rig.
Yeah.
Or Ronnie rig.
I know, I was just saying about that when we were doing a piece not long ago. It's kind of dull, isn't it? We're all saying that, we're using spinner rig. Yeah.
Well, yeah, exactly.
It just nails them, doesn't it?
It's very efficient, very low pop-up.
Yeah. Kind of almost acts like a bottom bait, doesn't it? That's
does.
what I've been doing, and I keep thinking, best of both worlds here. So I understand why you're using it.
Exactly. I mean, I've toyed around with. It's called now the Turbo German, but it's probably called another name, right? Which is
bound to be.
Which is like a stiff boom.
Yeah.
On a bottom of critically balanced bait.
Yeah.
But I haven't had any much joy on that. I've had one fish on that.
Yeah.
But
Barney, we boring you.
Mainly, sorry, Barney. Mainly spinner rigs.
Yeah.
I tend to use. And on this particular day, I found this sparse weed. And I didn't bait very heavily because I thought they're just coming onto the bait.
Coming out.
Yeah, so I'm not going to use an awful lot of bait. And I've baited quite tightly using spoms for a couple of reasons, really. One, I was fishing a little hole-ish type area in the lake. And also because the birds, the birds cane you want here, the seagulls. Trying to get bait out.
Worst place ever, isn't
it? Even dark, like last night, Anthony opposite me, it was dark. And the birds, the gulls must have night vision because they were picking his baits up, even in the dark.
No, I've never known a place like it. But at night, when the light's fading, normally most lakes you're able to get baits and they miss it. These buggers are just... They're
on it,
They're on it.
Yeah, exactly. So, yeah, I did, I don't know, a handful of spoms, maybe 3 or 4. Not very many boilies in there, really.
Yeah. And, just boilie using, yeah?
That was just boilie, just over boilie, nothing else.
Yeah.
I don't really want to get onto particle until a bit later in the year or
pellet
or anything.
Yeah.
So, yeah, that's what happened. The take was out the blue and just ripped off. Gained good fight. Didn't weed me up or anything like that. That was off that linear, 27 linear mirror. And then I think a bit later on, it's actually dark. It was about 10:30 at night. And it was on another rod on another spot.
Yeah.
That I had a 27 common.
Yeah.
And that was a bit closer in. That was about 6 wraps, and that was on a hard patch of silt. So from 2 different, completely different spots. But again, similar baiting method used on that. And then, bang on 24 hours later, exactly the same time later. 1 day later, as I had the linear, I had another take, and that was another. I can't remember how big that was, but similar size mirror.
It's mad. It's funny because I went in there as well, didn't I? And I went in there. I don't know where it was. I think whether you had some sort of sabbatical on the lake or something at the time. And I remember, I think Phil Buckley went in there, and there was a couple others, and it was producing fish, wasn't it? Ready, but none of them. I made that decision. It's when I had the snake, which was only, a few weeks before you had your special one.
Yeah.
And I was catching I caught a couple of 20s as well. And you know what we always say around here? It's been happening again at the moment, hasn't it? We've had a few that have been like 20s. that come out of the top end. There've been a few that around, and you kind of go like,
the big ones on here, yeah.
Are the big ones in there? And especially when they're doing that grouping up sort of thing, spawning. So I sort of made a decision back then. I thought, well, I don't want to be around this area. And I did, you know, I made that decision that I'm going to go where the big girls, you know, because we've always, like I am here at the moment, you know that some of the big girls and the tourists are coming out around this sort of zones, as they have done in the last month. And I made that decision to stay up there. But you persevered, didn't you? With,
I did, and it was really, again,
which was the right thing to do.
It turned out okay in the end, yeah. I had a couple of sessions, and I'd been close. You know, I'd try and learn something from every session. So I'd had a couple of sessions. I've been very close. Had fish showing near me, but I wasn't quite on them.
Yeah.
And there were too many lines in the water near, etc., etc. And a couple of times you get crowded out. Sometimes people turn up late.
Yeah.
But
the Dinton way.
Yeah, exactly. You're fighting the angler as much as the fish.
Yeah.
But this session, I think I turned up. It was late on a Saturday. I run an under 18, under 17, under 18 football team with lads. So my mornings, like yours, on a Saturday, are taken up with football. And then I thought I've got some spare time. I'll go down for the night and just come home the next day on the Sunday. Typical weekend.
Which I do admire, because I never ever say I'm doing a night driving all up the M25.
Yeah, I know. You don't like singles. I quite often go single night on here. No, it's a long way to go for a single night.
It is.
But it
can
be worth it.
Can be worth it, absolutely. Yeah, so, a lesson to be learned.
Exactly. So I turned up at 6 o'clock at night. Now, bear in mind this was June, so you know, plenty of light left. Turn up 6 o'clock. And I'd already talked to you, and you'd said, "Oh, I've seen some fish in spotters. This is the swim."
Yeah.
Where I'd had, you know, those three fish.
Yeah.
I had forgotten to say I did have another fish after there a few days later, just cutting back, because I turned up and I saw a fish go over, and I quickly rigged the rod up, cast on its head, which happened to be the spot
I remember that.
Fishing.
Yeah.
Because
you were fishing, sorry, but you were fishing a lot closer. When I had a couple out there, I was in a entirely different area, a lot further out, I think, and I was in amongst the weed, because you could get a drop in it. You just couldn't really, you just about filter your lead down into it.
I was fishing sort of this side of the weed.
Yeah.
Much shorter. And yeah, this fish jumped, and I saw it. It was, I think that was again a scaly one that jumped. It wasn't big, but it was a carp.
Carp.
And I put a bait on its head, and I noted what time I'd cast out and everything, and what time I saw it. And I think it was 12 minutes from me seeing the fish to getting a take, and then 5 minutes later it was in the net. And again, that was mid-20. So anyway, going back to a bit later on in June.
Last knock-ins was this now?
Well, we had probably about 4 or 5 days left before the shutdown. Because again, we've been waiting for the lake to shut down, but he hadn't done it. The fish hadn't started spawning too much. Came back in June the 5th. It was Saturday. Turned up at 6 o'clock, and the lake hadn't been closed. There'd been very little spawning activity, so Simon hadn't closed the lake. But we thought it must be imminent, because he is going to close it.
Very late.
So I thought I'm going to try and get down, try and get one more session in, because it was sort of, it's going to close. I think actually he posted out on one of the Facebook pages saying the lake's closing from the Wednesday. So I came down on the Saturday just to get one more session in. I think that's what happened.
Yeah.
So I turned up 6 o'clock on a Saturday. I'd already spoken to you, and you'd said, yeah, there's been a couple of fish there. Again, the weather was very moody, and I like that part of the lake. And the lines sort of, where people were fishing, there were a lot of lines at either end of the lake. And I didn't want to fish where there was lots of lines. And there weren't that many in the middle of the lake. There were some over the other side, but there were none really near where I wanted to go. So again, I dropped back into spotters. As you know, spotters has got a platform, you know, about 8 foot out.
Yep.
And to the left, you've got some marginal trees and bushes. a few more to the right as well. So set up, put the stage stands on, found the same spot. That was still pretty clear, sparse weed, but you know, good to present a bait on. And I did use the spom again, but this time I think I put about 120 baits out, just using the mini spom. Again, just boilie, nothing else over the top. Anyway, so yeah, got set up. I hadn't really seen an awful lot that night. Next morning, I was up at dawn. Didn't see that much activity. I did see a couple of fish, sort of three quarters towards the other side, so not in my water. There was no one fishing opposite me, but it was weedy over there. I didn't really see very much. And then, exactly, Barney. And then it sort of, the time was ticking on, and I thought, oh, it's getting a bit late. And it was 10 in the morning on Sunday. The left-hand rod absolutely steamed off, ripped off, ran to the rods, and I picked it up, and it was just, oh, it's like fairly solid, like there was weed on it.
Yeah.
But then it came free, and I thought, oh, I don't think there's anything on it.
Oh, for God's sake.
We got a spare, Jerry, love them.
All right, cheers. Oh, dear.
Go on, Boris, off you go, mate.
Boris.
You stay here. You stay here. Yeah.
Park legs, huh?
Park legs. Sorry, Jason. Carry on.
Yeah, so I picked the rod up, and I thought, it's weeded up. And then it started coming loose, and I thought, it's not on, it's not on. Then I realised it was kiting towards me, and it started kiting left. And as I mentioned, it's on a sort of a pontoon, or
Yeah.
So you're out in the lake a little bit, and it was kiting
One of the
really
rare
hard.
swims you can sort of get a little bit of
You
advance,
can get round a
can't
little
you?
bit,
Yeah.
exactly. So this fish was kiting hard left, but I couldn't keep up with it.
What happened to Johnny Mack? I don't know if you remember.
No,
when he
exactly.
had-
Exactly.
Similar tail, wasn't it?
Exactly the same thing. It kited really hard,
Yeah.
and it did exactly what it did to Johnny Mack. So it kited hard into the bushes.
Yeah.
And it got into the bushes, and I'd done my rod right out under the water as far as I could go, and I couldn't stop it. And it got into the bushes. I could see it roll the other side of some branches in the bushes, the trees. And I was like, oh no. And at that moment, it sort of was solid, and I thought, shall I go in? Shall I go in for it? And what John McAllister did, he went in for it, and I thought exactly the same thing. Could I go in after a fish like John
He's
did?
really deep there. I
And
can't.
it was deep.
Yeah,
I looked, I could
he's at the
see,
end there, isn't it?
and I thought, can I make it in my chest? No,
No.
you're swimming. And I thought, I'm not so sure. I eased off the tip just a touch, and I thought, oh, it's rolled, and it just rolled my side of this branch. And I thought, it's free, it's come out free. And I absolutely clamped down hard, applied loads of side strain, and it rolled hard just the other side of the branch. And then it came out in front of me, and I thought, oh, brilliant, brilliant. And at that moment, I caught a glimpse of it in the crystal clear water. And I thought, that's 35 plus. And I didn't know it was a linear at that time. I just thought, that's a big fish, pretty big fish.
It's a monster.
And then it started going the other way, and I thought, oh, it's going for the other trees, bushes to my right. So it started going down towards my right. But I managed to, again, really heavy side strain, sunk the tip under to try and confuse it a bit, and it started coming back. And then it just got an almighty surge and ploughed off. 20-yard run, probably, stripping line off the clutch. It then picked up a ball of weed, and this ball of weed was dangling on the line. It was like a washing line.
You on braid at this point, or are you on?
I was on braid.
Right, okay.
I'd spooled on braid the night before, so I just put braid on. But I was using a fluoro leader.
Yeah.
About 10 metres of fluorocarbon leader as well. And, you know, funny you should say that, because when it was stuck in the bushes, I could see the end of the fluoro, and that told me how far I had to go towards to get the fish. And then I managed to get some of that fluoro on the rod, and I thought, it's getting closer. So anyway, it's over to my right-hand side. It's picked up some weed. It's just dangling from the line, all this weed.
Yeah.
And
you dread the thought of that coming up to the tip, don't you? When it's
I
all
was.
hanging
I
on
thought,
there,
it's going to be a nightmare.
Yeah.
But then it cut across my other line that was still in the water, my right-hand rod, and the weed just skimmed it. And I thought, oh, I managed to escape it. And then it went the other way, and the weed hit my line, picked up my other line, and then the fish managed to go right, left, and knitted across my other rod, my other line, and my other rod started going, so I had to like knock off the buzzer, and it was ripping line off that
Oh my God.
bait runner as well, and it picked up my other line. It was a real mess. And then it came in front of me again, probably about 10 yards out, and I could see, oh, it's a big lily.
Big.
It looks 40 plus. And then it plodded around under the tip for a while, and I think all in it was 15 minutes.
Yeah.
About the fight, and I managed to just get it in the net. It's a really long fish.
Well, your net at the time, isn't it? That's another story, isn't it? With your smaller nets.
My bargain net that I thought I got a really good deal on turned out to be only a 36-inch net. About
one of the longest fish in the country, managed to get in
8 years
there.
ago. But I managed to get the fish in, kiss the spreader block, get it in, and I thought, oh my God, what have I got? What have I got here? And I just pulled it up against the side of the platform. And I looked in, and across the back of it,
It's just, I've had the pleasure of seeing Ian have it from over there the first time when it was 48 then.
Yeah.
And we didn't, well, I was there to witness it weighing it, and lots of people questioned it because it did spawn out. She did spawn out quite a bit because Robbie had it at 42 after that. And, so people were questioning Ian at the time when he had it at 48, and he did. It was massive, and I must admit, it's a fantastic, incredible looking fish.
Really long, dark, very dark chestnut across the top.
Yeah.
Anyway, so I had it in the net, and I rolled it up, and I could see the big line of scales across it. And
Perfection,
I thought,
isn't it? Yeah.
There's two fish.
Yeah.
That one or two fish. It could be either John's or Darren's, but I lifted it a little, and I thought, that's.
Yeah. Well, you can see Darren's.
I think that's
just
a 50.
It's just
symmetrical.
A zip, whereas John's a bit sparse.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly. So I secured the net to the platform at this point. I found Jay. He was down in Plumbers. There was no one around.
No, my mate Pete turned up as well, didn't he?
He did, yeah. 'Cause it was Sunday. A lot of people just pack up and they go.
Yeah.
It's like, where is everyone? I need some pictures. I need weighing, blah, blah, blah. Anyway, we weighed it up, and it went 51 pounds, 6 ounces.
Staggering.
Which is amazing. John McAllister had it a year before. It hadn't been caught for a year.
Yes.
And it had been caught...
also over 50, wasn't it?
It was over 50, first time over 50. So
Yeah.
he had it a year before me. Similar sort of fight. He went in, swam for it.
I remember. In a boat, though, wasn't he? He had to get a
he
boat.
was swimming. He was swimming to start with, but then
did have a
got
boat
in the
eventually, yeah.
He did get in the boat.
Yeah.
And then I think it was a year, virtually a year, or within that same week, he'd caught it. So it was a week, bizarrely, the same sort of time when he caught it. So, and of course, Ian Robinson caught it before.
Yeah.
So 3 of us 50-year-olds managed to catch it,
Yeah.
which is good. The old boys are
The
doing
old
okay.
timers, yeah.
But it's recently been out as well. It's
And big again.
and it's 52.
But
52.
it's not, as I said, it's the same with the one I had, isn't it? Snake. You got. There's 2 zips really. There's a snake and there's that one, and John's is the other one that people are after, including myself. Just absolute lean, aren't they? Just not an ounce
Nothing
of fat
on
on
it.
them.
No,
just
exactly.
absolute.
It wasn't
perfection.
carrying. It wasn't. It didn't look like it was carrying spawn. It was big.
Yeah.
But this fish.
We've got others coming through at the moment as well. That's the thing.
Oh,
There's
it's
others,
amazing.
as you said right at the beginning of this conversation, it is the land of the linears, and you're right. You got, there's loads, and some that go, oh, I didn't know about that one. Which is staggering.
They just turn
come
up.
out.
People who catch something that hasn't been out for years.
Yeah.
That's how it works on here.
Yeah.
But yeah, I think that fish in 2018, Alex West had it, and it was just over 40.
Yeah.
That's 2018.
That's right. But as I said, it can spawn right out, but I haven't, you know, it's been caught again recently, but it doesn't come, as I was about to say, the same as the snake, they don't come out very often.
Doesn't come out very
which makes it even more of a challenge, doesn't it?
Exactly.
So what's next then? So what's the top of the list? If you could pick one out of here, because you're on a roll at the moment, do you share the same sort of feeling that I have, that we're running out of time by mid-October and then it's kind of
I think you do, yeah. I was
painful, isn't it?
I kept hoping for triple row this weekend, but it didn't happen.
Yeah.
So you know, you've been fortunate enough to catch triple row.
And right fishing right in its territory again.
Right
good angling,
in the same
Dan.
area. So I'm, you know.
You're not far away, no.
Exactly.
And I have seen a big dark fish, but I'm not one that sort of person. My eyes are not that good to pinpoint exactly what it is that's showing, because there's quite a few in there.
But I mean, you've got some fantastic 18 fish in here, haven't you?
Yeah.
That are due still. We've had son of triple row that's been out twice. Yeah, that is.
It's been funny, isn't it?
Fantastic. Quite unusual.
That we've had. We as I say, we haven't. There's a couple on the missing list that just haven't. We were discussing this yesterday.
Stamford Common's not been.
I haven't seen that come out yet.
Not been out, I don't think. John's Linear's not been out.
Yep. Could be big.
Could be big.
That's what we're all here for. It's
triple row, of course.
Triple row hasn't been out since, I think Nathan had it last, wasn't it? It was early April, wasn't it? Was it early April, something like that?
It was, it was spring.
Was it Zig as well? I don't know. I can't
spring.
remember, but yeah, something like that,
So,
wasn't it? Yeah, we've got to keep at it. But well done, mate.
Thank you very much.
Good angling.